Okay, we're gonna try this one last time. I don't know if this is working. I had thought this was a very easy setup with this microphone. By the way, welcome to the video. But we've been having technical difficulties with this microphone. I thought it was a plug and play type situation. It isn't. There's settings that you have to go through. I just YouTubed a bunch of stuff to try to figure out what it is I need to do in order to get this microphone working the way that in my mind, should be working. So I had it all set up. I went through the entire training today. I'm talking about how great it is to have a microphone, how awesome the audio upgrade is gonna be, and it doesn't sound like the mic is working. Maybe that's just me, but you guys will see in today's training video how the audio sounds. Nonetheless, we still got a great session in today, and we still got some quality content out to you guys regardless of how great or how poor the audio is gonna sound. I started editing the video and immediately thought to myself, this isn't the way that it's supposed to sound. So I apologize for that. I'll make sure to fix it for the next video. Today you're gonna have meh audio. So just bear with me as I figure out the technical difficulties that I'm having with getting this audio setting to work with this camera. But let's get into today's training. So the focus on this lower body day, which is day 2 of my lower body work for the gym, everything is going to be explosive. Everything is going to be moving fast. We don't really have a lot of strength work that we're going to do on this. We're going to start off with a lot of volume this first week, and we're going to taper that volume off as we get closer towards a testing period where we're going to be testing some jump variations, some sprints, probably test like a power clean, maybe a box squat, just to kind of see where things are at. But the focus for today, we're going to start off with those depth jumps again. We're going to do 4 sets of 10 like we did previously. We're going to try to increase that box height a little bit and get more volume at a higher box. So we'll probably start off at like 50 to 60 centimeters for our first set of 10, and then bump that up to around 70 centimeters for at least 2 sets, maybe 3, depending on how that first set of 10 feels. Maybe we do 2 and 2, but we're definitely bumping that up to above 60 today. So probably around 70, 75 centimeters on my top sets for the depth jumps. We're going to start off the same way that we did before, warm up a little bit by doing those drops, warm the legs up for some of those impacts that are going to happen, and then we're going to get into the depth jumps to start today. So I'm going to start warming up, set up some boxes, and then we're going to get after it. Also, as we're warming up, shout out to the boys over at Sika Strength. I don't know if you guys see the shirt here, but I ordered some of their Sika Sleep supplement to test it out and see how it goes. A little extra gift, they gave me this nice zip-up hoodie that's kind of light, probably a good warm-up hoodie for at the track. They also sent this long-sleeve t-shirt, which I absolutely love the material. The cut, everything about this thing is pretty dope. My favorite thing about the shirt too is it has like that scoop down in the front and then also in the back, which is dope. The material is super stretchy. Great training shirt, great shirt to just chill with. So shout out to Owen and Dare for sending that over. To be honest, I don't know how long the sleeves are gonna last on this thing. Most of my training shirts are of the sleeveless variation. I really like the stretchiness of this though. So I'm gonna try to resist the urge to chop the sleeves off this thing, but this shirt is amazing. I thought for at least one session I gotta keep the sleeves on because show off the shirt a little bit and say thank you to the fellas over there. But it's an amazing shirt, really like it. Starting off today with a little bit of the drops. Get the legs ready for the impact that we're gonna be doing on those depth jumps. I got a couple questions about the depth jumps on why do I always step off with the same foot? I don't really think it matters too much whether you step off with your right, step off with your left, because you should be making contact on the ground with both legs at the same time. Whatever's comfortable really is going to be what's most beneficial for you. Now we'll do a little bit of rebounding. I tell you one thing right now, my hamstrings are sore. Yesterday's track workout, we ended up doing 3 of the flying 10s, so that's 30 meters of intense intense volume. We did 2 of the fly float flies, which is another 40 meters of hard 10s, but 60 meters if we add that float in, because the float, even though we're kind of gearing it back a little bit, we're still at high intensity. So I had almost 100 meters total yesterday of really intense max velocity work. So the hamstrings are feeling it. Also part of the reason why we did a lot of work capacity the block before is to just get prepared for the amount of volume and intensity that we're going to have for the next couple weeks leading into some of these tests. But hamstrings are pretty sore right now. Calves a little bit too, I can feel it. Probably also a little bit of residual from the depth jumps that we did on Tuesday. So I'm going to stack these up a little bit, start off with like an easy set of depth jumps, and then work up my way towards my first working set, which will probably be around that 50 centimeter mark. All right, first set here, we're going to do 40 centimeters. Just do 3 to 5 reps. You don't want to do a whole lot of volume on your warm-up because you're going to be doing 40 repetitions at higher intensity. So I like to warm up, try to manage the amount of ground contacts that I'm going to have, because even though this is just 40 centimeters, it's still pretty intense anytime you do any variation of a depth jump. So 3 to 5 reps on the warm-up, slowly building that up, and then once you get to your first working set height, you'll do your first set of 10, and should be pretty good to go at that point. You just really need to warm up for the impact that you're going to do. You don't really need to warm up for the specific volume that you're working on for. So 3 to 5s on your warm-up is probably more than enough to get yourself ready to do any sort of depth jump from whatever height that you're going to be going from for that day. We'll start off at 50. Count that as our first set. So this is 50 centimeters right here. We'll do our first set of 10, and then from there, I think we'll go straight to 75 centimeters as long as that first set of 10 on the 50 feels pretty good. Full rest in between, probably about 3-4 minutes, getting you want that central nervous system to fully recover, get the legs. You want the most power available to be able to knock out these reps with the best quality. So longer rest in between. Next set we're going to do at 75 centimeters, and we'll probably do 3 sets there to get our 4 sets of 10 total for today's session. I feel like one thing I should mention on this is what's important, the drop height. The higher you go, the more ground forces you're going to have to overcome to jump off of. This box right here doesn't matter. It's to limit the amount of like impactful ground contacts that you're going to be having. So if I was doing a depth jump and I just dropped off this, hit the ground, jumped up in the air as hard as I can, and then landed again, that's 2 very intense ground contacts that you have per repetition. So if I'm trying to manage my ground contacts, and that's what I'm using to measure, I'm going to be doing 40 total. If I did 4 sets of 10 without a box, landing onto the ground, then I'm doing 80 ground contacts, a lot of volume on that, could be a lot more accumulated fatigue, could start to deteriorate the quality of repetitions that you're getting once you get towards set number 3, set number 4. So the box here doesn't necessarily need to be higher than this box. This is just going to be the box that's important because that's the height that's going to dictate the intensity that you receive as you make contact with the ground. This box here, after you jump, is just to kind of lessen those ground impacts so you're not jumping up in the air and then having to catch yourself again hard onto the ground. Should feel nice and easy, soft landing on that box there. So that thing doesn't matter too much. This is kind of the focus, or this is the focus, and this is the intent of this particular exercise here. That was sloppy. So first set, 75 feels good. The focus of your landing should be more on the midfoot. You're not necessarily trying to land on your toes and spring off your toes. You definitely don't want to land initiating contact with your heels because you're going to feel that shock all the way up into your lower back. So as you make contact with the ground, you should be thinking about making midfoot contact. The force of you dropping to the ground is going to quickly stretch that Achilles. So your heel will eventually end up making contact with the ground, but it's not going to be impacting the ground heavily. That forced stretch and then you exploding through is the beauty of what the depth jump is supposed to do. That impact is lengthening that Achilles tendon involuntarily. So it's not like me picking up my foot, doing some sort of movement where that load is very slow. That impact forcefully stretches that Achilles really hard and quick and allows it to snap back quickly as possible as you're pushing through. So when you hit the ground, you want to be thinking about midfoot contact. So you'll see a lot of people, especially track and field athletes that are doing depth jumps, they're actually holding their toes up towards themselves as they're preparing to make contact with the ground in order to hit that midfoot, get that stretch, and explode out of the bottom. You definitely don't want to try to land on your toes. More than likely, what's going to happen is if you're too far forward on your toes, you're going to spend way too much time on the ground because you're going to hit, probably get all the way down onto your heels, and then explode through. If you land onto your heels, you're going to lose that stretch shortening cycle, which is the purpose of this exercise. So think about trying to land just behind the ball of your foot. Let that momentum kind of carry you down, but you're also fighting against that momentum the second that you hit the ground. So as soon as you feel the ground, you're already trying to push through, even though you're probably still going to be going down a little bit, and then explode through that movement. So I'm going to do 2 more sets of these. Then we're going to move on to our next complex for the day, which is going to be a variation of like a barbell squat jump and some box jumps to follow. The format for today is a little bit different than my normal format. Because the focus of today's session is about being explosive, high rate of force development output, trying to move external loads very quickly to try to build that power output. The format of today is slightly different. Normally I would do my jump, go into some sort of Olympic lift variation, and then move into my main strength movement, and then do my accessory. The focus for today dictates that the order in which we're doing our exercises should be a little bit different. Depth jumps, a very explosive movement. Body weight, you should do that first as you're most fresh because it's very demanding on the central nervous system. You don't want to be in a fatigue state as you do those. The second thing we're doing here, we're focused more about moving fast than about moving external load. So we're doing a jump variation with a barbell paired up with a box jump, focusing on rate of force development, moving weight explosively, being very quick off the ground. After we do this exercise, we're going to move on to a block power clean, which that power clean, even though it is still going to be explosive, it's going to be loaded much heavier. So the focus of that is more about the load on the bar and not necessarily the speed that the bar is moving. So when you're doing things and trying to develop speed and explosive power, you want to do your fast movements first and then gradually move down to movements that are going to be heavier and moving slightly slower. So that's the reason that we're switching up today a little bit. So what we're going to do is a B stance squat jump from the blocks, which means we're going to jump from this position with the barbell. 2 reps on one leg, 2 reps onto the other, and then we're going to do a set of 3 to 4 on an approach box jump. And all that means is that we're going to be taking 1, 2, 3 steps in prior to our box jump versus what we did earlier this week, which was just a static box jump from a standing position. So B stance again, what we're focused on, a little bit of a stagger from left to right. Barbell goes onto your back, and then from this position here, and then the approach box jump, we're going to be jumping onto this hopefully stable box, but just taking a short approach into that jump before we land on top of the box. So we'll probably do at least 3, maybe 4, depending on how they feel. We'll do 4. So that's going to be the setup. Probably do 5 sets on that, maybe 6. But full rest in between the movements, 30 seconds or so. You don't need a lot of rest in between those. You're trying to maintain that stimulus from the loaded jump into the bodyweight jump. Same thing we did with the box jumps, or the box squats and the box jumps earlier this week. So full rest in between sets, 30 seconds in between exercises, 5 sets total. So with this B stance, as I'm doing set number 2 here, even though you're in a staggered position, one leg will be doing a little bit more work than the other, you still want to be pushing off both legs. So you don't want to just be focusing on that front leg. You're still going to be using this back leg for a considerable amount of that force to move this barbell. But the B stance, just kind of stagger a little bit. Nothing super specific about it. But you do want to load up to feel that this front leg right now is maintaining the majority of this load. We're going to stick with 3s for this set here. Next movement, block power cleans. We're going to be doing sets of 2 on this, building to something that's moderate and probably doing the majority of these working sets at the same weight. Earlier in the session, the focus was on moving things quickly, so the external load was going to be dictated by the speed being there. So the speed came first. It was all about moving things as quickly as possible, so not really focused on doing things heavy. I still want to do something heavy for this session. So this movement here is going to be my loaded movement, meaning that I'm focused on the weight on the bar, not necessarily trying to be the most explosive with it. Otherwise, I'd probably stay around 100 to 120 kilos. But we're going to build this up, do some moderate sets of 2, probably anywhere between 4 to 6 total sets on that. Eventually building to a 1 rep max towards the end of this training cycle, and then move on. But as we get there, we're going to be doing doubles. Might hit some moderate singles next week, and then build up to a heavy single the following week. I'm using wrist wraps because the thumb tape that I have absolutely sucks. So I need to order some new thumb tape before I do my 1 rep max. Because I don't want to max out with the wrist wraps, but if I'm just doing doubles and nothing super heavy, wrist wraps will do just fine for that. So this is our loaded movement for the day. This is going to be our heavy focus. Sets of 2. Probably be around 140 to 150 for our doubles today. today. We're going to focus on a little bit of a hinging pattern. I still want the focus of today to kind of be explosive. What I've normally been doing, if you can go back and look at some videos as well, is I had that RDL variation that I was doing from an elevated position on the box, and I was trying to explode through as quickly as possible, drop the bar back down to the box. I had what I wanted to progress from that is something that's going to be a little bit more reactive on the hamstrings. So that meant doing some sort of a swing or some sort of a hinging pattern, but I wanted it to be cyclical. I wanted it to be a little bit more reactive. So banded kettlebell swings is what I'm going to do today. Kettlebell swings in general, a lot of hinging and explosive movement. Hips, hamstrings are involved in there, a little bit of quads up at the top, but that band is also going to accelerate the eccentric and the loading phase of it. And once I get to the bottom of that swing, I've got to counteract that accelerated movement and explode back through again. So that's the focus and that's the intent that I have with these. So I'm looking for anywhere between 5 to 8 explosive reps. So how this is going to go is I'm going to try to get the kettlebell moving first before I actually start counting my repetitions, and then I'm going to do probably closer to the 5 rep range and just try to be as explosive as possible as I can on these kettlebell swings. And there you have it, a little bit of explosive movement through the hips, through the hamstrings. That's going to be, and then I'm going to do a couple more sets of that. That's going to be it for today. Appreciate you guys watching the video. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys tomorrow.